Hi, I'm Evan, Head of Engineering for RMSTATOR. We're going to show you how to install our complete charging system kit for the Suzuki Eiger 400 and ArcticCat 400 quads. These are excellent machines, but they're well known for flywheel failures. The RMSTATOR flywheel completely solves that problem. We're going to step you through installation of the flywheel, gasket, stator, and one of our improved MOSFET regulators for these machines. So follow along. Okay, so to get started, we need to remove the left side panel here for access to the stator and flywheel. The stator and flywheel are installed on the left side of the motor behind the recoil start here. These panels come off pretty easily with these plastic push rivets. You can easily pop them out of place by working a flathead screwdriver underneath them to lift them up a little bit and then pulling the rest of the way out. There's also three 10mm bolts here that hold the plastic panel to the footbed, so we're going to remove those as well. Okay, so all the rivets are removed and I'm going to get the body panels out of the way. Here was the last one. I'm going to lift out the interior section. As you can see here, you do need to remove the seat to get to the last couple pieces. So that's out of the way, and here goes the footbed. And now, as you can see, we have full access to the left side of the motor. So we'll get started on tearing that apart. Okay, so make sure you've also drained your engine oil and disconnected the negative terminal of your battery just to be safe. So the next step, now that the bodywork is off, is to go ahead and remove the recoil start assembly. That's held on here by these 8mm bolts, and I'm going to go ahead and undo all these and we'll slide the recoil start off the motor. Okay, so we've removed the recoil start assembly and now we have the recoil starter cup underneath. So this comes off with a 14mm nut. However, you do have to lock up the cup here so you can turn against it. Otherwise, you'll actually turn the crankshaft. So I have it locked up here with a tire iron just in place in the teeth here, and it's wedged against the upper control arm on this side. So once you have that in place, now I've already loosened this, but you can then easily turn against it and remove the nut. So once you break it loose, go ahead and remove the nut. Get your tire iron or whatever you're using to lock it up out of the way, and then you can walk it off the shaft. Before we remove the side cover, we've got to remove a few more things. You need to remove the shifter linkage here. Pop that off the shaft there. Then you need to remove the speedometer drive, which is down here, two 8mm bolts, and it'll slide right off. And then you need to remove your oil line as well to the side case, which is also two 5mm Allen heads. So those are removed and we've got it draining into some paper towels here. And we're going to go ahead and pop off the idle adjust screw there. And then the last thing is your stator connector, which are these two guys right here. They attach to the wiring harness right up back here behind the frame rail. So once you have all of these things removed, you can now get started taking the side case off. The side case is pretty simple. You have 10, 12 different 8mm bolts all the way around the perimeter. So we're going to go ahead and remove all of those, and then we can grab both sides of the side case and gently rock it off. And it's going to be seated on some dowels behind some of these bolts here to align everything. Okay, so obviously all the mounting bolts have been removed and I've walked the side case off of the motor. I'm going to go ahead and lay it down and show you what the pieces are that we're going to be dealing with. Make sure when you pop this off that you don't lose, there's some small washers here. Make sure you don't lose them when you pop that off, or some of the gears may fall out. Make sure you line them back up where they go. So now that I've got it laid over on its side, you can see the main parts we're going to be dealing with here. Here's the flywheel we're talking about. That's the major problem on these units. You can see the exposed magnets. You can even see the epoxy all the way around. And that's generally what fails, and the magnets will come apart and hit the stator. So you can see here's the stator that generates your electrical power for charging the battery on this motor. And the stator on this one's fine. We're going to go ahead and replace it since it's apart, but you can see where it's mounted. And here's your pulsar coil right here, or pickup coil, that provides a timing signal for your ignition system. So those are the major parts here. To get the stator out, we'll go put the side case on the workbench to easily remove it. And for the next step, we're going to go ahead and show you how to get the flywheel off the motor. Okay, so now we're actually going to get the flywheel off. Step one is to remove the nut that holds it in place. I've already loosened this with an impact gun. It's best to use one if you have it, electric or pneumatic, and you can blast it right off the threads here. Make sure you use the right size socket because you can easily round off the sides of the nut. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Now this flywheel is already loose from being removed once, but I'm going to show you how to use the puller to get it off. Step one is to use the thread protector to protect the fine threads on the end of the crankshaft for the recoil starter. So this is actually threaded all the way in. Now you need to insert it onto the tip of the crankshaft and thread it, but you don't want to thread it all the way tight because the tip of the crankshaft will actually be butted up against the inside of this. Then when you try to remove the flywheel, you can actually damage the threads on the inside. So with the flywheel inserted, you want to thread this guy in until it's tight and then back it off at least a full revolution. So that way you've got, you know, at least a 1/4 inch gap between the tip of the flywheel and the puller. Okay, so now that I've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and screw the puller on. That uses the large threads on the inner diameter here. So I'm going to line that up and thread this in place until it's tight. Now if you're using an impact gun, you can tighten it with a crescent wrench or you can just hold the flywheel and tighten it by hand until it's firm. And then insert your puller bolt. And you're going to tighten this guy up by hand all the way until it touches the end of the crankshaft protector. And that's it. Then you use your impact gun again. If you have one, much easier to use an impact gun. A couple turns will pull the flywheel right off. You can hold this in place with a wrench and then do this with a ratchet if you have to. But as you tighten that, you can see the flywheel's walking off the taper of the crankshaft. And then just do the reverse, take all this off, and your flywheel will pull right off. Okay, so we have the flywheel out on the workbench, and the next step is to swap the starter clutch over to the new flywheel. So the starter clutch, you can see on the back here, is the one-way mechanism that lets the starter disengage once the motor starts. So that's held in place by these 6mm Allen head bolts. So I've already loosened them, and I'm going to remove them. And once they're all out of the way, you'll see that the starter clutch will just slip off the back. So I can put our old flywheel out of the way, bring our new one over. Now there's no way to line this up, there's no polarity or anything, you just line it up with the bolt holes. And you can thread in your new ones. Now make sure, I'm just putting one in to hold it for a second, make sure you use red Loctite on these. They have a lot of torque on them and you can't have these backing out. So I'm going to use Loctite on every single one and get them tightened up. And then the flywheel is done and we can get the stator swapped. Okay, time to swap the stator. We have all 8mm bolts here that hold the stator, the pulse recoil, and the wire brackets in place. I already have them all loosened, so I'm going to go ahead and remove these guys. Set them out of the way in the side case. Okay, so once those are removed, everything pretty much just lifts out. Might have to move the stator around a little bit to pop it out. Make sure you leave your wire bracket for the pulse recoil back in place there. Otherwise it'll just lift right out. Okay, so now I have that out of the way. I'm going to take the new stator. And it's pretty obvious which way it goes. There's cutouts here for the wire harness. So I'm going to lay it down in place and rotate it until the bolt holes show up. And then you just need to route your wiring harness through the existing location, following the way it came out. Need to put your pulse recoil back in place, following the same location. And then make sure, again, you use red Loctite on all of the bolts and reinstall them and then torque them to specs in the manual. And then you want to make sure you have your grommet pressed in place. And that's about it. Then you can get ready to get the gasket on and get the side case back on. Alright, so the stator's mounted in the side case. We're ready to start reassembly. I'm going to go ahead and put the flywheel, new flywheel with our starter clutch installed back on. So make sure you line up. You'll see the woodruff key on the crankshaft here and the slot in the flywheel. So make sure you line that up. And you can kind of rotate it a little bit till you feel it. And at that point, it should slide back. Okay, so I've got it slid back as far as I can. I can tell that everything's straight because there's no wobble at all in the flywheel. And then you can take your rotor nut, thread it back in place. Now I use an impact gun to reinstall these and that will be just fine. Or you can use a torque wrench You can lock the flywheel up from the flat sides right here with a wrench, and the torque spec is 101.1 foot-pounds. We're putting our side case on now. We have a thin layer of black RTV silicone sealer around both sides of the case, on the side case and the crankcase, and we have our gasket installed on the dowel pins here on the crankcase. So we have all the gears are installed and lined up on the crankcase side, so we can just go ahead. Alright, so the side cover is reinstalled, and we have attached all the other items that we originally removed. That is the recoil starter, so we reattached the recoil cup inside and then put the cover and the pull handle back on. We have the oil line reconnected down here, make sure the O-ring doesn't fall out. And we have the Speedo drive hub back here reinstalled along with its gasket. And then we have the shift linkage reinstalled here and tightened. And you need to make sure you reinstall your idle adjust screw right here. And I've routed the stator wiring harness up here, and I have it plugged back into the bike's wiring harness. So we'll clean up the wiring there and make sure it looks good. And then the last step is to replace the regulator. So we'll show you where that is in just a second. Alright, so we're going to remove our voltage regulator now. I've removed the back bolt, which you can get to with a short, shallow 10mm socket. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove the last one here. And pull this out. Remove the connector. So the voltage regulator is out. Now we can install the new one. Okay, we have our new regulator installed. This is our MOSFET regulator, which is a slightly larger housing. So it's mounted just using the outer bolt here, and I reinstalled the original relay bracket as well. If you use our stock replacement style regulator, it will pick up both original mounting bolts. So now that I have that done, I just need to plug it in. I'm going to make the connection right here. And then I'm going to use some zip ties and tie the wiring up along the frame here. So that's about it for the electrical parts. You need to make sure that you reconnect your battery cable, and you need to refill the motor with oil. Once you do those things, you can start it up, and we'll show you how to check the charging system. Okay, so we have oil in the motor, everything's ready to go, so we're going to fire it up and show you how to make sure everything's charging. Have a voltmeter here set to DC volts to the 20 range, so we're looking for, measuring battery voltage right now, 12.2 at rest is perfect. I have the key off right now. And as soon as I start it, we should see upwards of high 13s, low 14s, since I won't have the lights on. And I'll rev it up a little bit, and we should see it increase a little. And we'll know everything's working well. So key on, kill switch. So there's our idle voltage, about 14 volts is excellent. And we're seeing upwards of almost 14.2 at no higher than 3,000 RPM, which is pretty solid. So this thing's charging well and ready to go. So we're going to get the side panels put back on and get it back to its owner.